Hello, everyone out there. This is Seidelman here once again with another fantastic Gumbocast. This is Gumbocast number 4, starting on August 1st, 2019. Alongside me once again is the dominant one, Jessica Brand.
Mm-hmm. As always, and always more strategies, more ways to count the cards, and more ways to find the games in your favor. That's me and me for you.
Yeah, and we'll explain more about that when we talk about the game show Throwdown and what we did to help out with the Throwdown. Also on the show, we got Elvin Warfel and John Quinn becoming the new EPs of Price is Right and Let's Make a Deal, respectively. We are also talking about more HQ woes with them turning down new funding. Just a strats man, we will talk about Card Sharks and play with a nice little app from GameShowTheory.com. And also Primetime and Emmy nominations. Who is nominated for what? Was a really fun weekend that we spent with the Throwdown, but we'll talk more about that later on. So what else have you been up to, Jessica?
Not much. I mean, you know me. I usually do the trivia basically day in, day out. I mean, I'm living this stuff so I can learn it and eventually, hopefully, become a super champ one day. That is one of my few goals in my life, but I want to make sure that happens. I'm probably not good enough for it yet, but if I keep getting better and better, I mean, getting somebody that is 30, I'm 27, I got plenty of time to make it. So,
Practice your buzzer finger. Practice that buzzer. I
oh,
mean, I
always.
mean, to wrap up the season in Jeopardy, we'll talk about that right now because I mentioned it in the latest episode of Game Show Gumbo, which is up right now. After the Tournament of Champions roster was released, we already have 2 qualifiers for the 2020 or 2021 tournament, and I think with all the contenders coming out, should probably be 2020. Uh, the last game of the season, 6-time champion crowned with over 135,000, with all 3 of them missing a pretty easy Final Jeopardy. And the quip of Alex Trebek with a non-Jewish ship. It's kind of interesting to me that we're starting to see more streaks happening nowadays.
You I mean, I guess that's the advances of medicine and technology as we know it for individuals, I guess. Like, for the longest we're going to live. I mean, it's true, right? Like,
Yeah. More silver streaks, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I have no idea what I was talking about. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see because back in, I'll just say back 5 years ago, it was almost unheard of to have like multi 6, 7, 8 day champions in a season. And we had that the past few years. Past 2 years, actually. Um, Josh Hill was a 7-time champion, and don't sleep on him for the Tournament of Champions. I think he's, like I said last Gumbo cast, he's got a really good shot at winning. If not Holzhauer, it's him.
I mean, he's your dark horse. I think part of it too, and I don't know if it's personal experience, it very well might be, or if it's just a general change in the show itself. I feel like Jeopardy, because it feels like it's loosening a little bit on the strings of difficulty overall, it becomes more of a case of who has the best skill with the signaling device, which at its core, I guess that's alright. But if that becomes the case, those who are elite at a specific monolithic skill are going to dominate as a result. Because that's what made James great, right? That he was great with the signaling device.
Uh,
And
Not only that, you're also forgetting the big thing about James is that
what
he applied a perfect strategy.
he did, but I mean, I guess what I'm saying though, in specific respect to what that can mean for players as a broader base, if you're great at the signaling device more than ever, relative to the difficulty on the board, it's going to create for more dominant champions as an actual cause and effect. And that's independent of board selection strategy, which is important to talk about too when you talk about James. But I believe that that's ultimately secondary because if you don't have good signaling device control, you can't execute what clue is selected next. And I agree, it's important. I just think it's like the flour relative to the chocolate and the cake. So,
Right. And you know what I think is the best way to practice that?
what's
If
yours? I
you're,
found mine.
well, certain things is the clicker on the top of a not electronic, but a mechanical pen or pencil like I have,
You
that's
know,
a good way to do it.
well,
But if you want something that's more akin to what the buzzers are in Jeopardy, go to a local PC store and they'll have old school joysticks which handle like the Jeopardy buzzers. Just get one of those joysticks so you can practice with that. And plus, they also make for good flight sticks when you want to play Flight Simulator.
that's interesting. As someone who's actually never handled one of those, but has handled a signaling device, that's interesting you say that. Like, I mean, I take your word on it. Mine personally is to use a toilet paper roll plunger, which is what Jason Block told me to do actually.
Oh,
And
that
then
is
the other,
good.
yeah, it's great, isn't it? Like, it's so simple. Everyone has
Spring
that.
loaded.
Now, the thing I've heard from other people is that they use the pens that everyone gets at the audition, which is I think a really neat idea too, because you even got the Jeopardy logo on there too. So, and they're perfect like little ballpoint pens that you can mash like that to try to keep up with the players on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally use the So what I would do when I didn't have my toilet paper roll is I would just smack my couch like really hard, which is a broader area, so in theory it could take longer. Just to compare myself with James
Yeah.
actually. And James is who I use as a benchmark when I'm trying to practice signaling device because that's the level I want to get to, along with the Fritz strategies that he speaks of. Like if you haven't heard of Fritz and the buzzer strategies, they're incredible. You've heard
Right.
of him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fritz Holznagel, I believe it is. Yeah. Yeah, like I mean, read his stuff if you haven't. Like it's so great. When he did the final wager stuff a few years ago, that was definitely worth seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is how you do it basically.
Yep. Also, want to let everybody know that various things have been updated. I updated the Twitter because we're doing a bit of a changeover now, which I started today while we're recording this. The Twitter handle has now been changed over from Game Show Garbage to Game Show Gumbo. And today we started phase 2 of the changeover. The Patreon is now Game Show Gumbo. The Discord is now Game Show Gumbo. And more importantly, the YouTube is now Game Show Gumbo.
Sudden
So,
changes surround me.
mm-hmm. Yeah, but you knew about these changes. You knew I was going to make
I
them.
did, yeah. I did. I'm just quoting Alan Menken. So
Speaking of interesting authors and books, another thing that happened to me a couple of last week actually, I was on a date, and after the date, I got drenched, but I came home to a nice package from my friend Jamie. She gave me a miniature helmet from the Charlotte Knights.
let's go out in Charlotte because I know she's out in North Carolina.
Well, she's back home now. She got
Oh,
home today.
oh, okay.
I'm a big wrestling fan, but she also sent me a couple of wrestling things. She sent me this book from the Crockett Foundation, which is called "When Wrestling Was Wrestling," and it's a nice picture book of a lot of the classic wrestlers from the Mid Atlantic and Jim Crockett Productions territory. A lot of great wrestlers like the Briscoe brothers, Ric Flair, Ole and Arn Anderson, Blackjack Mulligan, Paul Jones, Rufus R. Freak Train Jones. It's just a lot of wonderful photos. But while I was flipping through it, there was this little thing that was in it. And it is a postcard style picture autographed by all of the living Crockett's.
I
From,
bet you expect to get
yeah,
that.
Jackie Crockett, who took all the photographs for the book, uh, Joanna Crockett, David Crockett, who was the announcer, alongside Tony Schiavone and Bob Caudle for a lot of those programs, and the man himself, Jim Crockett Jr., who produced a lot of it. But also in there is something that surprised me was an autograph photo of one of the best mullets in wrestling right now, and a really awesome wrestler in Brian Pillman Jr. Autograph 8.5 by 11 photo. Fantastic stuff. And I thank her daily for that.